Big, loud, loyal, and not exactly known for their academic achievements. Meet the Ogryn, the Imperium's walking tanks, genetically stunted abhumans with hearts of gold, fists like wrecking balls, and just enough brainpower to follow orders. Most of the time, they might not be the brightest tools in the shed, but on the battlefield, they're battering rams of flesh and bone. And the Emperor loves a blunt instrument. But where did they come from? Why are they so big, so dim, and so dangerously loyal? In this episode, we're digging deep into the origin and evolution of the Ogryn, from their roots as human colonists twisted by high-gravity worlds, to their place in the Astra Militarum's ranks as living shock troops. We'll uncover how the Imperium turned genetic hardship into brute strength. They've fought Tyranids, chaos orcs, and sometimes accidentally sat on their own Commissars. But one thing's certain: when an Ogryn charges, something's going to break. Usually the enemy, sometimes a wall, occasionally reality. This is the story of the Imperium's biggest, strongest, and most loyal sons, the Ogryn. The origins of the Ogryn. To understand the Ogryn, you first have to understand the Imperium's past and just how far humanity fell. Thousands of years before the grimdark present, during the dark age of technology, humanity spread across the stars. Vast colonization fleets seeded countless worlds, terraforming planets and adapting to alien environments. On many of these worlds, human settlers thrived, but on others, the conditions were too extreme. High gravity, radiation, isolation. Over generations, those humans began to change. Ogryns are the descendants of those early colonists. Abhumans, twisted by millennia of adaptation to brutal, high-gravity planets. Their muscles grew denser, bones thickened, body mass ballooned. But evolution is a trade-off. As their bodies grew stronger, their brains didn't keep up. By the time the Imperium rediscovered these populations during the Great Crusade, the Ogryn had become what we see today: primitive, hulking giants with childlike minds. But the Emperor, ever practical, didn't see monsters. He saw tools, loyal, durable, and strong. Exactly the kind of shock troops the Imperium needed. So the Ogryn were classified as stable abhumans, not mutants, not heretics, just a bit slow and incredibly useful. From then on, the Ogryn were drafted into the ranks of the Astra Militarum, often herded into battle by commissars and officers who barely spoke the same language. But it didn't matter. Ogryns didn't need strategy. They needed a direction, a target, and a reason to smash it. And through all the centuries of endless war, the Ogryn have remained constant, a living legacy of forgotten human worlds, forged by hardship, hardened by gravity, and welcomed by an Imperium that values strength over understanding. They didn't choose to become what they are, but the Imperium sure knows what to do with them. The biology and psychology of the Ogryn. Let's be clear. Ogryns aren't just big humans. They're something else entirely. Towering over 7 feet tall, and sometimes well over 8, Ogryns are massive, muscle-bound abhumans with the strength to tear through bulkheads and the durability to tank small arms fire like it's a mild breeze. Their skin is thick, their bones denser than plasteel, and their pain threshold is questionable, mostly because they don't always notice when they've been shot. Their internal biology is optimized for brute force survival. Cardiovascular systems are oversized to fuel all that muscle. Lungs are enhanced to pull oxygen from even the thinnest atmospheres. Their metabolism burns hot, which means they eat a lot. An Ogryn squad can bankrupt a field mess hall by breakfast. But it's the brain where things get simpler. Ogryn cognitive function is significantly reduced compared to baseline humans. Speech is slow, memory is short, abstract thinking limited. But here's the thing. They're not mindless. They're loyal, dangerously so. Once an Ogryn bonds with a commander, usually the first person who doesn't treat them like dirt, they'll follow them through a minefield, into a Tyranid hive, or off a cliff if asked. The Imperium takes advantage of this. Bonehead programs, crude cybernetic implants and behavioral training can boost an Ogryn's thinking slightly, enough to give orders to others or operate heavier gear. But even without that, most Ogryns just need three things: a leader they trust, a big gun, and a reason to hit something. And when they do, it's like watching a freight train made of hate and innocence slam into a chaos warband. They're not clever, they're not subtle, but that's never been a problem. Because in the 41st millennium, sometimes simple is exactly what the Emperor needs. The role of the Ogryn in the Astra Militarum. In the vast war machine of the Astra Militarum, there's no shortage of boots on the ground. Billions of guardsmen fight and die every day. But when the battle gets brutal, trenches, choke points, or meat grinder assaults, the Imperium turns to its bluntest instrument. These abhuman giants serve as close combat shock troops, meant to hit hard, hit fast, and hit repeatedly until nothing is left standing. Standard infantry may flinch under fire. Ogryns don't. They charge, bellowing war cries, shrugging off last rounds and kicking down barricades like paper walls. They aren't subtle. That's not the point. Most Ogryns are armed with the Ripper gun, a brutally powerful automatic shotgun that fires shells as big as a guardsman's forearm. Some even use it as a club when the shells run out, and they're usually deployed in squads, accompanied by a Commissar or bonehead. An Ogryn with just enough cognitive enhancement to keep the others in line. Tactically, they're ideal for breaching enemy lines, clearing bunkers, holding choke points, or leading suicidal charges. Strategically, they're morale weapons. Seeing an Ogryn barreling toward enemy positions tends to have a motivating effect on both sides. But not all Ogryns are created equal. Some are equipped as Vulgryns, heavily armored, shield-bearing brutes who advance under fire like living tanks. Others are converted into Nork Deadog-style bodyguards, assigned to protect high-ranking officers, sometimes more effectively than necessary. And a rare few end up in penal legions, strapped with explosives and pointed in the general direction of the problem. Still, for all their strength and utility, Ogryns are not highly respected by Imperial High Command. Many officers see them as disposable, like attack dogs with flak armor. But ask the veterans on the ground, those who fought beside them, and you'll hear a different story. Because when the walls are closing in, when the trenches are filling with traitors, and the comms are going dead, there's nothing more reassuring than the sound of an Ogryn saying, "Me smash now." Notable Ogryns. You don't often hear about Ogryns in the annals of high Imperial history. No grand speeches, no grand strategies. But sometimes in the middle of a war zone, a single Ogryn does something so insane, so unquestionably loyal, that even the Administratum takes notice. Let's start with the legend himself. Nork Deadog, the bodyguard of mythic proportions. Nork wasn't just a Bulgryn, he was the Bulgryn, assigned to protect Astra Militarum officers. He didn't just stop bullets, he ate them for breakfast. Nork's claim to fame. Surviving dozens of battles, killing carnifexes with his bare hands, and famously carrying his dying commanding officer across a battlefield while simultaneously beating a Chaos champion to death with a flamer. He wasn't clever, he wasn't subtle, but he was unbreakable. Then there's the story of Brug Malachi, an Ogryn sergeant, yes sergeant, who led a squad of fellow abhumans after their Commissar was vaporized by a plasma blast. Despite being not technically literate, Brug coordinated a full flanking maneuver, held off 3 waves of Orks, and requested reinforcements using only grunts, drawings, and improvised hand gestures. It worked, somehow. There are countless similar tales. Ogryns rescuing entire squads. Ogryns shielding tanks with their bodies. One even held up a collapsing fortress wall for several minutes while the defenders escaped, then apologized when his arms gave out. They're not strategists, they're not saints. But in a galaxy where loyalty is rare and heroism even rarer, the humble Ogryn keeps showing up, just doing the Emperor's work the only way he knows how. Loud, loyal, and with fists like wrecking balls. Outro. In the grim darkness of the far future, loyalty is a rare thing. Ogryns may not be geniuses, they may not give stirring speeches or devise brilliant strategies, but they don't need to be. They serve with their hearts, their fists, and an unwavering sense of duty that can't be manufactured or programmed. Born from hardship, shaped by gravity, and underestimated by nearly everyone they serve, Ogryns are proof that even in a galaxy consumed by war, cruelty, and bureaucracy, there's still room for simple bravery. They don't ask for medals. They don't even ask for thanks. Give them a Ripper gun, a reason to charge, and someone worth protecting, and they'll give everything they've got, right down to the last breath. In a universe where heroes die forgotten, and valor is just another resource to be spent, the Ogryns remind us of something enduring. That true strength isn't always clever, but it always stands its ground. And if it has to stand on your Commissar to do it, well, that's just part of the charm.